conflict sometimes between the two, you know. I wanted to really pay attention this week to the singularity and the concept of polarity within the singularity. And the polarity that really drives culture is the polarity of good and evil, the polarity of trying to make something better or doing something to make something worse. It's a really important concept, I feel, for culture soldiers, because the most powerful way to change the way a person sees something is to change the way they value it. You know what I'm saying? When Europeans first saw West African art, they didn't value it because they felt that the artists didn't have the ability to render naturalistically in perspectival space. However, artists who had learned that particular skill were very attracted to African art because it was abstract, because it wasn't something that you see all the time, and seemed to speak about a deeper truth that's unseen. This idea of goodness being something that everyone knows and badness being something that everyone knows starts to fall apart when you look at it more closely. And I feel that as culture soldiers, it's our job to try to take the things that people dismiss as being bad or worthless or should be edited out of reality and showing the values of those things, and taking the things that people assume are the best and the only one good thing and showing how they may not be best or good for everyone. You know what I'm saying? This idea that every argument is really moot because in the end we're all in this singularity together. So therefore, there's no way to separate yourself from what's bad, and there's no way you can lose what's good. E equals MC squared means that it's all energy, it's all vibrations, and the energy that you seek could very well be the worst thing for you when you think it's the best thing for you. And the energy that you are trying to repulse and trying to stay away from could very well be the form that you most need and would most enhance you. The question in a moot argument is how do you show a direction to go in at all? Do you just remain neutral because there is no way to win the argument? The best isn't great and the worst isn't bad, so why not just be neutral and be like a leaf in the wind and let anything happen to you? Well, the human character begs for something different. We all know pain is not something that you would traditionally seek. Hunger is not something you would traditionally seek. But we also do know in certain circumstances, people do seek pain, you know? They seek pain because it gives results. You know, like Schwarzenegger says, no pain, no gain. The idea of going through pain gives you characteristics that are different than someone who doesn't go through pain. And many of those characteristics are the most valued characteristics, you know? And again, hunger. Nobody wants to be hungry. But sometimes people do want to be hungry. You know, the idea of going on a diet, the idea of restricting nutrients so that you, once again, have this result, your body, of going through this discomfort. Your body shows the record of you going through this discomfort. And that's actually valuable, right? As culture soldiers, we also want to question those values. We want for a person who is considered to be overweight not to be considered sick or ugly. You know what I'm saying? We would like, for me personally as a culture soldier, I feel it is in the human condition to try to give each person the freedom to be what they are and to pursue what they want to be. And from the start, say that they are perfect. And then if they achieve what they want to be, they've just changed perfection. They didn't improve, and they didn't get worse. This is a really important concept to me for culture soldiers. I feel that you should always be skeptical when somebody says that's making things better. I feel that you should always be skeptical when somebody says that's making things worse. I feel that you should always be skeptical when somebody says that's primitive, or that's modern, that's progressive, that's retro, that's evolved, that's de-evolved. These kinds of words and these kinds of polarizations are really an attempt to take a spectrum of things and say only one side of the spectrum is good and the other side of the spectrum is bad. To me, it's as silly as taking a rainbow and breaking the rainbow along the green line and saying everything towards the blue is good and everything towards the red is bad. What we want to do is what I call soul scope aesthetic, is to recognize the beauty in each frequency, in the entire spectrum of whatever is being expressed. So, one of the reasons why I really love West and Central African culture, particularly Yoruba culture and Congo culture, is because they focus on the fact that God is good. Just like in the African American church, God is good all the time. And all the time, God is good. Just like in the streets of Brooklyn, it's all good, baby, baby. This kind of concept where it's all right until there's nothing left is speaking about the singularity and speaking about that moot argument and saying, no, it's not moot. No, there is an argument here. And the argument is that bad doesn't exist at all. And that the worst thing that can happen to you is a blessing. And that the best thing that can happen to you is just more blessings upon you. And you see this with Yoruba culture when you look at an Orisha like Babuluaye. Babuluaye means the father of the earth, the father of the world. He's got the whole world in his hands. That's Babuluaye. Babuluaye is the Orisha of smallpox, the viral Orisha. And today we're really starting to understand Babuluaye in African American culture and in modern culture as a whole. When they talk about on the internet something's going viral, they're talking about Babuluaye. Babuluaye is this idea of something's hot. Something so hot that it's spreading that heat. Heat spreads. You know what I'm saying? And this Babuluaye's symbol is the broom. And Babuluaye is all about initiation. In West Africa, when somebody got smallpox, they were being initiated into the family of Babuluaye. Yes, it could kill you, but if you survive smallpox, you will never get it again. You will always be a part of that family and accepted into that family. In fact, the whole idea of vaccination, European doctors first saw vaccination as what they called witch doctors doing a Babuluaye initiation, where the so-called witch doctors or bush doctors were using something called cowpox, which was a much weaker version of smallpox, but still in the same family of viruses. And they would use the cowpox vaccine, in fact, in Latin, means from the cow. They would use the cowpox to inoculate themselves so they would be more likely to get over the fever of the cowpox. And then once you inoculate yourself to the cowpox, you are also initiated into smallpox. You cannot get smallpox once you've survived cowpox. This type of viral spreading of something is also sexual. It also has very much to do with desire. In fact, like I said before, Babaluaye's symbol is the broom. And if any of you have ever watched African-American slave shows like Roots, you will often see that when two slaves got married, they jumped over the broom. That means that two strangers jumped over to become family with Babaluaye. Because of course, many of our viral diseases are shared through sexual intercourse by becoming family with one another. And the wonderful thing to me about Babaluaye worship amongst the Yoruba is that when a family member got struck with Babaluaye, they would never say that family member was sick or diseased. They would say that Babaluaye blessed our home. Babaluaye is trying to initiate us into his family and share his blessings with us. Just like if someone had a child with developmental disease, they would say, oh, Obatala got drunk. And as a result, didn't sculpt my baby boy perfectly. He made a mistake, but it wasn't a mistake. Dwarf is not a mistake. The albino is not a mistake. The child born with 6 fingers is not a mistake. It's a blessing from Obatala. It's a blessing from heaven. It's a blessing that we have to rally around this child with Down syndrome. Because they are a child from heaven.
Could you write down his name?
Okay, cool. I'll write down some names so that you could look them up.
Yeah.
I just was talking about Obatala.
So sometimes it's like this initiation with the inner fire or something like that.
Yeah, Babaluaye. And it's interesting that you said the inner fire. Babaluaye is the Orisha of the hot earth. Yorubas, a great deal of their rituals and traditions are about cooling the earth. Yorubas were already worried about global warming way before slavery. Ricky Arnez of I Love Lucy, he was from Cuba, and he would sing for Babalu. Babalu. Little did all of the United States know that they were listening to this long African tradition of this African angel, this viral angel that speaks about the hot earth and how that earth has to be cooled. And what made the earth hot? From a Yoruba perspective, what makes the earth hot is the greed of man. Is man constantly raping the earth to get his grain, and now raping the earth to get oil. This raping of the earth, this ripping into the earth, makes the earth hot. Just like a vaccine will give you a fever, it'll make you hot. And the idea is that the earth gets so hot, it tries to push us off, us human beings off the earth, like we're the virus. And I guess in a sense we are, right? The idea here is that if you point at the virus and say the virus is evil, when you are the virus, you're evil. That's why we don't like to point fingers about something being evil or bad. We'd like to see everything as being a blessing. And when you take Babaluaye in this time era, when he was at his worst with AIDS, it's hard to see how AIDS is a blessing. at the moment when it pops up as a sore. The Yoruba would say those sores, that smallpox and AIDS and viral diseases and chickenpox, all those sores that rise up are the grains that we were so greedy for to get out of the earth that they now pop up out of our skin. And the only way to heal it is for those grains to pop like popcorn. So when you look at in Brazil, for instance, they'll be celebrating Babuaye and they throw up popcorn. And here, when we see some viral video, we're eating it popcorn, looking at the viral video. You know what I'm saying? Basically, Babuaye is very alive here. But Babu is not the only Orisha that we try to outlaw. There's a lot of outlaw Orisha. But before I talk about the outlaw Orisha, let me talk about the Orishas that make laws. Obatala. Obatala is white and cool. White and cool. Obatala is the reason for racism. Obatala is the reason why we, all as a people, all around the world as a people, think white is better than black. This is an angelic argument that really has its seat before carbon was even born, before oxygen was born. The argument of Obatala goes back to when there was only one Orisha, Alegba. Alegba is the owner of the vital force. If you remember in the first class, I also was talking about Eshu. Eshu means to gather things into a ball. To gather things into a ball. The force that gathers things into balls. What forces gather things into balls? Well, of course, there's a strong nuclear force that holds protons and neutrons together. But even before the strong nuclear force, there's the force that holds quarks together. The force that holds quarks together, they hold together. The quarks are held together in Babuaye's signature number. In Eshu's signature number, which is 3. Eshu does everything by 3s. Eshu Alegba does everything by 3s. And at the very beginning, when energy was completely the only thing going on, when there was no light, no time, no space, just expanding energy, just a ball of expanding plasma. That's the environment in which quarks, the smallest quantum particles, were congealing out of the cooling primal energy of the Big Bang, of the singularity expanding. And those quarks were bound together in 3s to create protons and neutrons. And then protons and neutrons were bound with the most powerful force that expresses itself in time and space, which is the strong nuclear force. The force that holds protons and neutrons together in a ball at the center of the atom. But there still weren't atoms then. When the balls came together, they created ions. But those ions pulled electricity from light. There was a time when Obatala, which is photons, right? And electrons photons and electrons were both one energy. When Eshu Elegba pulled together the ions, pulled together the nucleuses, they were, as things cooled, they pulled electrons from photons and created Obatala, Chango. Well, Chango is even earlier because the Big Bang itself is an expression of Chango. Chango literally means the force that knocks things over. The force that knocks things over. The force that knocks the bush over. But what it's really talking about is any expansive, expressive force, any force that blows out. It's the opposite of Eshu. Eshu is the force that gathers things into balls, the issues. Chango comes and blows that ball up. Boom, explosive. Electrons, which just, it's different languages, but like I keep saying, Eshu really is the same thing as issues. It is issues that make us gather together in the balls. It's issues that drive the protons and the neutrons to bind together. It's issues that pull hydrogen atoms together with gravity to create a star. And those issues in that star explode as Chango in a supernova and create all of the elements, or basically the sexuality of energy itself, creating all the elements. The furnace that produced the oxygen and carbon and iron that runs through all of our veins. So, when I'm talking about these Yoruba Orisha, I'm talking about forces of nature that make sense in a scientific way, far, far right up until the edge of where science is right now. The Yoruba didn't have a creation story that spoke about the Big Bang, or spoke about quarks, or spoke about neutrons and protons. But what they did have was stories, allegories, that made very clear the characteristics of these angels and how these characteristics express themselves in different scales of reality. You know what I'm saying? So, basically, flowing electrons is lightning. That's Chango. That's his characteristic. Electrons caught around a nucleus. Electrons caught around the nucleus is an electron cloud. That is Ogun. Ogun is part of the electromagnetic spectrum. The electromagnetic spectrum is, once again, Chango, the flow of electricity, the flow of electrons, all the way to Ogun, the flow of magnetic force. And when you have any atom, its electron cloud has magnetic issues based on the electrons that satiate its nucleus. You know, so for instance, hydrogen, the first element, which is always Eshu. Eshu is alpha and omega. You know, it's about characteristics. Eshu is always the first and the last. Whereas Obatala is the light. Eshu is the way. Like Christ said, Ich bin ein Siegerweg zu der Himmel. I am the only way to heaven in the Lutheran Bible. When you hear somebody say, I am the only way, they're talking about Eshu. And you have this in Chinese culture too. In Chinese culture, it is yin yang, the Tao. Tao means the way. Once again, the road, the way. That's always Eshu. That's his signature. Just like the number 3 is his signature. Just like virus is the signature of Babu Laye, and the hot earth is the signature of Babu Laye. Just like for Obatala, cool whiteness is the signature for Obatala. And what is Obatala's first expression that we all can see? Well, it is the earliest expression, the earliest mark that still resonates today. And that expression is called white noise. White noise, background relic radiation. That's what scientists call it. Background relic radiation. That is what occurred when Chang'o, when the flow of electrons separated from the photons and started to dance around the nucleus, giving the atom Ogun, the force to actually exist. So instead of a plasma cloud, you got actual substances like water. And what is water? Water is 2 hydrogen atoms, almost like feet, with a large oxygen atom. Right? That large oxygen atom really treats the 2 hydrogen atoms like feet. And that goes back to what Eshu is. Eshu is Eshu. Eshu is not only the issues, but it's also Eshu. In West Africa, they'll actually hang a shoe over their property to let you know, you come on my property, I'll treat you like a shoe. I'll step on you. I'll stomp on you. You know what I'm saying? Eshu is the homeless slave / bum, street person, like Christ, a street person, a homeless person. Eshu is that homeless person, that street person, that person that grew up on the crossroads with no money, the poor pauper, that rises to become king, that rises to become the Lord of Lords. Because like I said, he is the Alpha and the Omega. He is the worst and the best. And as a result, he is half white, half black. There's no Orisha that's all black. Because any Orisha that's all black, you can't see it, there's no evidence of it, it doesn't exist. Utter blackness is the complete unknown. That's why nothing is utter blackness. Even Eshu, as dark as Eshu gets, has to have a white side, or else there'd be no record of it and no need to talk about it. And even if it isn't a white side, it's a red side, a hot side, or a cool side. But it has to be some side other than black. Blackness doesn't exist in actuality. And we know that now scientifically. Back in the day, our ancestors would say, you can have no light. You can go into a dark cave and no light at all in the cave. But now we know there is light in that cave. There is electromagnetic frequencies moving through that cave. It's just our eyes can't see them. And for that matter, even if there were no light in the cave, just by us being in the cave there would be light, because we are infrared light bulbs. We are beams of light. You know? And this idea of infrared is very Alegba. The idea that you can't see the light, but you are the light. You know what I'm saying? You know? Obatala, being Obatala, there are 2 kings. Like I said, Alegba starts off as a bum, a pauper, a slave, a peasant. Chang'o and Obatala, they both start off as royalty. Obatala is the one that said, let there be light. In the Bible, they call him Jehovah, Elohim, the creator, the potter that formed us all from clay. What's interesting is that the Gnostics didn't believe that Obatala was the creator. They believed that actually Obatala is sculpted creation out of the true God, out of the true God's body. And that true God's body was called Abraxas, or Abraxas. It's a Greek word. And here, I'll write that down for you too. I know we're going back over stuff I covered on the first class, but it's worth revisiting. Abraxas, or Abraxas. You may recognize it from the Santana album, Abraxas. And both me and Carlos Santana got it from the same source, which was Damien by Herman Hesse. It's a great book if you want to look it up. It really talks very well about the Gnostics, and I hope that you'd also look at the Nag Hammadi Bible, which is one of the earliest Bibles that they have found to date. It's right up there with the Sea Scrolls, the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Nag Hammadi Bible is a Gnostic Bible. The Gnostics were rejected by the Catholic Church. Well, I should say rejected by the Roman Empire when they made themselves into the Catholic Church and decided which of the books of the Holy Library they would put into their canon. And they left out all the Gnostic books. The Gnostic books were what they say the animus or mystic books of the Bible, similar to the Sufis for Islam. The Sufis were the animus or the mystics of Islam, similar to the Kabbalah in Judaism. The followers of the Kabbalah were the mystics, the animus of Judaism. And those folks always end up being outlawed by the followers of Obatala. Obatala is when Obatala expresses itself as theology, Obatala can be quite hard-edged. Obatala ended up fighting 1/3 of the heavenly host. Notice 1/3 is a legba. So they're breaking up the heavenly hosts into thirds. And they say 1/3 of the heavenly host was at war with Elohim, with Jehovah, with the potter. And the potter offered Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. The potter offered them to eat of the tree of life, for the tree of life is goodness. And if you eat of the tree of life, you will live forever. And then he warned them. But I would like to say, like all laws, anytime you tell, particularly a human being, what not to do, you're almost guaranteeing that some human being is going to do that. It's almost an advertisement. And I feel Obatala knew that very well. And knew that people were going to go down the rabbit hole, which is represented by the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now remember, the tree of life is knowledge of goodness. So really, this tree that Obatala was talking about was a tree that offered just one knowledge, the knowledge of evil. It was the Eve of illness. Eve ill. Ill only exists, disease only exists if you believe you know what is wrong. When I go to the doctor and they tell me I have high blood pressure and I'm obese, and I look at them and I say, there's nothing wrong with me but the fact that you believe there's something wrong with me. I really do feel that this is what Christ was doing when they said he was going around healing folks. Christ was just reminding people that they are divine, beautiful people that have no illness. They're just different from the other people that think they're healthy. Christ also struck down that tree that bore no fruit. And I feel that that tree that bore no fruit is the knowledge of evil. If you believe you know something is wrong, that is what's wrong. And I feel as culture soldiers, that is the thing we should always contest and resist. Because it is always the belief in evil that is the spirit to push people towards violence. Hitler needed for the Jews to be seen as evil in order to get good people to do bad things. And I love the way African Americans say bad. Because bad can be good. You know what I'm saying? But when you believe someone is evil, you push bad to the point where it ain't good no more. You push bad into some genocidal, non-human, just sad things happen. You know, you gotta have a little respect for the people that you don't want to be like. You know? And the little ladies on the corner looking at them drug dealers doing them thing, say, oh, that's a bad boy. And you could hear in their voice, they're leaving an opening for bad to be good. But they're also letting you know, I'm not like that guy. You know what I'm saying? That's the beauty of, I feel, of African American culture. To take this word bad and make it almost good, but not actual good. Just good enough that you don't have to be evil to get rid of it. You know what I'm saying? So, Obatala is the white cloth without a marker. The immaculate white cloth. Like the Immaculate Conception, the immaculate white cloth. Not one mark on the white cloth. How do you do that? By having rules and laws. By telling people don't step on the grass. Don't rub your ass and shake my hand. Don't, you know, the rules of society. You know, the quality of life rules. Don't smoke. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with those rules and everything, but then you get to a certain point and you start making laws like Bloomberg made, where you feel you're absolutely right because smoking is such a sin. You feel you're absolutely right to throw a tax on smoking when you're a billionaire. But then poor people can't afford your tax, so they make a black market, you know what I'm saying? A bad market, because you did this good law. And then you have to get evil to undermine the black market and end up doing stuff like killing Eric Garner in the street over a cigarette tax. This is the problem with good trying to enforce its will on bad. Because in order for good to enforce its will on bad, in order for good to conquer evil, you're going to have violence, you're going to have loss of life, and that beautiful white immaculate cloth you began with is going to become a rag of bloody murder. And that's what happened with European Americans. When Europeans expanded, they had the Bible. They knew all of the allegories expressing what the human condition is and what it's capable of. They said that they were following Christ. What was their symbol? They held up their God lynched on the crossroads. Christ was their God, and they lynched him on the crossroads. And they went all around the world saying to all the other Alegbas, you mess with us, we'll lynch you on the crossroads. And they did. All the other Alegbas, all the Eshus. Obatala went around lynching Eshus all around the world. These are angelic arguments. These are arguments that go back to the Big Bang. These angels have been having these arguments, and these arguments are written in to our DNA. They're written in to the atoms that make up that DNA. They're written in to the relationships, the molecules that come together for that DNA. They're written into the astrophysical experience that our DNA has been playing in for the last 4 billion years. These arguments are bigger than any one of us as an individual, but any one of us as an individual can resist these arguments, change these arguments, move these arguments in such a way that it will sway everyone in the future, which is what Christ set out to do. It's what Buddha set out to do. Buddha started off rich. He wasn't white though. Notice that. Buddha was not white. Buddha was a Chango. He was dark-skinned emperor, royalty, that his father wanted so much for him not to see suffering. Once again, his father was outlawing Eshu, was outlawing the poor, was outlawing Babaluaye, the sick, was outlawing all of the things that he felt would harm his son, Buddha. All the things that he felt, all the things, they're not things, they're angels. When you set up hospitals to heal illnesses, you are really setting up a war against angels. Those illnesses exist because they are expression of angels, just like we are the expression of angels. When you set up a jail to enslave everyone that steals, or everyone that does drugs, or everyone that sells drugs, you are trying to enslave a Legba. You are considering yourself Obatala, clean, immaculate, beyond sin. So therefore you get to judge the sinner. You get to judge Ogun. Ogun is force. Ogun is the rapist. Ogun is the one that mines the earth. Ogun is confronted by Obatala's laws, by Yemoja's laws. Yemoja is the owner of rules and regulations. La regla, Yemoja, which means mother, mom of the children, mom of children of fishes, also referred to as Yemaya in the Spanish. Yemoja, the mother of the children of fishes. In fact, Yorubas would scar their children's cheeks with gills, so that when they passed away, they would be recognizable to Yemoja, the ocean, which we all come from. This idea of evolution amongst the Yoruba was a communal knowledge 2,000 years before Darwin. 2,000 years before Darwin, West Africans knew that we are the descendants of fish, and that many of the traits we have are directly coming from fish. In fact, right here on my arm, I'm not sure if you can see it, bad photography, but there's a line right here on my arm. That line is the line that a shark has. On this side of the line, my skin is light. On this side of the line, my skin is dark. Just like on a shark. There's a line going down the middle of the shark. Everything below the line, the shark's skin is light. Everything above the line, the shark's skin is dark. That way, when you look down on the water and you see the shark, you can't see the shark because it's dark like the surface of the water. And when you're underneath looking up at the shark, you can't see the shark because the shark is light. We inherited that. We actually have that. And on all mammals, when you look at a dog, it has the same line except the hair grows this way on the line, and the hair grows this way on the line. Why? Because of the aquatic. It's going back to when we had scales in the ocean, so that the water could get by on around our body in a hydro, respecting the forces of fluid water.
Let's move this.
It's all right. I read it right.
Thank you for asking for this. I'm thanking him for asking for this thing, because you've been taking off since you've been writing on this thing, right? It's very good.
You know what I mean? It does help to get
We see it.
stuff that you can actually look up online, because it's hard to hear it all coming from me if you're not familiar with these words or these names. At least you can look them up online and see what other people are saying about them and understand where I'm coming from because of that. You know? So Yemoja, the owner of rules and regulations that go back so far that we have these ancient body traits. I mean, the Yoruba would carve gills into their children's cheek, but today we know that our ears were once gills. That's how we developed. Our ears, that's the reason why your ears are connected into your throat and nose, because you used to breathe through your ears. You know, you used to be a fish. And the little bones that we use to hear sound were little bones that we use to manipulate our gills. You know what I'm saying? And there are certain rules and regulations that we've had since we were fish. And one of those rules and regulations is a mother's going to care for her children. You know what I'm saying? There's a concept of fairness. The concept of community, the concept of family. These are all very early arguments. Because remember I said it's all moot. There's nothing keeping a mother from turning around and eating all of her fresh-born children. It's just another meal. It's because these rules are so deeply written into us. And if they weren't, we wouldn't have survived. We needed these rules to survive. So anything that had different rules didn't survive. So in a sense, we are the rules. But as we get older, as we develop, we also break those rules. That's why we left the water, was we were tired of the water's rules. We wanted to embrace the rules and regulations of the air, which is a very different experience than the water. Anyone can tell you. And as we develop technologically, a lot of the rules that we had also will change. You know what I'm saying? It's inevitable that we're going to have a different relationship with ourselves because we're going to have so much power that actually Babalu gave us. That AIDS virus ended up teaching us how to manipulate Obatala's cane, DNA. DNA is the cane that Obatala uses to sculpt life. We are all sculptures based on the code that Obatala wrote and uses to sculpt the proteins that make our body. And we had no control over Obatala's writing, at least very little control over Obatala's writing, until Babalu gave us the tools. Through AIDS, we learned our new technology, CRISPR, which allows us to edit Obatala's holy cane that he uses to sculpt life. I'm speaking slowly because the implications of that are so deep. We're just starting, we're at the very tip of the surface of what we're going to be able to do. And usually, like for instance, to get man to the moon, you need a whole country working to get man to the moon. But we're moving into a time now that to give a dog human features, you'll be able to do that in your home soon, you know? DNA is going to be the way in which we store our information. And DNA is also going to be so easily manipulable that one day, one person with the right affordable technology, this is going to be horribly expensive, affordable technology, could sit down with a correct knowledge of DNA and access to the right types of samples, could literally sit down and engineer a virus that will only take out people of with a certain biological trait. You know, we are moving into a place where someone like Babu Aye, who, I know I call Babu Aye an angel, but he's an angel based on a human being. Just like Darwin was the first person in European culture to talk about evolution, Yemoja was a black woman in Africa who was the first woman to recognize evolution. And Babu Aye was a member of the royal family of the Oyo Empire in the 1300s or so. He was the brother of Chango. They were brothers, Babu Aye and Chango. Babu Aye developed smallpox, but before he developed smallpox, before he caught smallpox, before he was initiated into smallpox, Babu Aye was the party boy of the family. He would go to all the parties, all the masquerades, get down, always. That's why Desi Arnaz sings the Babalu. Babalu loves a hot party, you know? He likes making the earth hot, you know? I like it like that. That's Babalu. You know what I'm saying? Babalu would get rejected because he'd get too crazy. Cool people didn't want the wild party guy to come to them. He makes things too hot. He gets too crazy. Things get too out of hand. You know what I'm saying? They wanted control. They wanted to police Babalu. Babalu felt himself getting marginalized by his own people. He felt that his natural character was not welcome in him. And it was in that time when he got smallpox. And then people really, oh my goodness, I don't want to get that viral disease. Babalu became antisocial. He's like, yo, I want everybody to go through my initiation. I don't care how much you don't like me. I don't care how much you police me. I want everybody to like it how I like that. You know what I'm saying? We'll find next time. Babalu Aye goes off like that, just like AIDS. What was AIDS? AIDS was the party people. You know John Ahearn's here. John was one of the folks that went through the 70s and 80s here in New York when AIDS came to fruition in the art world. And it was a really bizarre thing because AIDS seemed like it was only about the party people, right?
Yes, that's right.
It was only about the party people. It was about the people that were making culture hot like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The gay people, the happy people,
Yeah.
the people that were in the place to be, making the party you wanted to be at. That's Babalu. That's AIDS. You know what I'm saying? You know? Now what happens when we get a cat that's like that, and he's super smart 500 years from now. And he's sitting down in his kitchen. He got a little genetic lab set up, and all his friends have rejected him. He's been marginalized. He's been policed. People are afraid of him. He's gonna get hot like that. Baby, make some shit that'll kill half the world. It's our job as culture soldiers to cool people out. And one of the most powerful ways to cool people out is to accept them for what they are. And not try to push them to be skinnier. Not try to push them to be cooler. Not try to push them to stop smoking. Not trying to push them to not do drugs. You know, I mean, what do you mean don't do drugs? Drugs are the plants that grew up with us for the last 500 million years. These plants have sculpted us and made us addicted to them. You know what I'm saying? I mean, fresh water. We didn't need fresh water. Our ancestors came out of the salt water. But we got addicted to the fresh water. We don't have to go and drink salt water. But if we don't drink fresh water, that's an addiction. You know what I'm saying? You know, the fact of the matter is that we use these negative terms in order to police people, in order to stop people from doing what they want to be doing. That's why my whole game is to fight for a free kin, a married kin, a free family, a married family that is resisting your a peon beliefs. We so often want to make peons of each other. We so often want to make peons of ourselves. The very same impulses that make us want to strive to be a better person makes us want to stop someone else from being a bad person. We police each other and we police ourselves without really knowing what is good for ourselves or what is good for others. How many times have you strove for something that you thought was good and found out it wasn't all that, or in fact it was something you might have wanted to avoid? How many times have you avoided something and found out it was all that and something that you would have liked to have strove for? It is that ignorance that should make us all humble in making our own decisions as to how we change ourselves and in telling other people how they should change. I feel that as a culture soldier, the most important thing is to celebrate. To celebrate what you are now, to celebrate what you fear becoming, and to celebrate what you hope to become. You know, when you listen to the blues, you hear a celebration about a man walking down the street with the devil. You know what I'm saying? When you listen to the blues, you hear a celebration about a woman sitting down to breakfast with depression. Come on in, depression. Have a seat. It's you and me. Let's chill out, baby. You know what I'm saying? When you listen to gospel, it is the suffering that anoints you. You know? God is good all the time. You know? When Martin Luther King, in the last speech before he died, said, "We as a people shall see the mountaintop." Obatala is the mountaintop. You know, the great Holy Spirit of the Native Americans. All around the world, Quetzalcoatl was a white-faced serpent. A man with a white face wearing round glasses. Before there wasn't prescription glasses in Mesoamerica, down in Mexico. But they depicted Quetzalcoatl as a man, a white man, wearing prescription glasses, round glasses, just like Benjamin Franklin. All around the world, people predicted Europeans. All around the world, people predicted the children of Obatala, the blessed children of Obatala. There was no place that Europeans landed. When they landed in West Africa, West Africans already had Obatala. They already recognized that albinos, who were white just like Europeans, were the children of Obatala. So when white folk came, they were like, "Oh, here's Obatala's children. We just hope he isn't drunk on power." Unfortunately, Obatala was a little drunk on power all around the damn world, making peons of all we are called black people. But in Yoruba language, they would never call us a black people. Remember I said black really doesn't exist. The word for black in Yoruba is dudu. The word dudu, I do mean dudu. Everybody loves food except for after it's been eaten. Nobody likes dudu. Pupo. Pupo is the Yoruba word for my skin tone. Pupo. And pupo means red. There's no such word as brown, because brown is just another shade of red. So basically, all around the world, you have two people. You have white Obatala people, and then you have red Pupo people, the red people. And unfortunately, Europeans in general were very true to a drunk Obatala, and they made slaves of a legba, of a womb. A legba in our body would represent the subconscious mind, and Obatala would represent the conscious mind. The Superman, the Uberman, the white man, the overman, and then you have a legba, the subman, the subhuman, the slave. But what's interesting is a legba's argument. We all know Obatala's argument, that he is on top, and a legba is a slave underneath him, and a legba serves him, and a legba is kept in control, because if it weren't for the white man, everybody would just be drunk out in the street and no work could get done, and da-da-da-da-da. A legba's argument is, I'm the only one that makes this shit happen. Obatala is just barking off orders, but nothing would happen if I didn't actually do the work. Obatala says he's conscious, and I'm unconscious. But the fact is that Obatala goes to sleep 8 hours a day, and I'm always working. If I went to sleep, your heart would stop beating. That's Ogun. The heart works endlessly. Ogun is pupa, ha, a slave, born a slave just like a legba. So you have Obatala saying he is the white man in the White House in control. You have Chongo, red and white. Make America great again. That's a Chongo thing. I'm dead serious. Trump is working all that Obatala Chango energy, all that I'm an emperor, I'm a king energy. And you know when the emperor and the king is barking, there's a whole bunch of Ogun and the Legba. There's a whole bunch of hot, dark-skinned people doing the work that makes that Obatala look so good. Because Obatala is not really so good at it. Saying what should be done or how it should be done. We just take care of Obatala. Obatala is special. You get what I'm saying? The master is special. Give the master a nice gin julep. You know, cool herbs for the master to keep him cool down. And we take care of the plantation. You know, the reason why so many slaves were taken out of West Africa is because West Africans knew how to grow rice. One of the major crops, rice and cotton. Both were major crops in Africa and in the Americas. Not such a major crop in Europe. So you had knowledgeable people doing all the work while Obatala took all the credit. The white man took all the credit. These are all, maybe they're just a string of sad coincidences, but I don't think so. I think this is the expression of these angels expressing themselves deeply in the medium of humanity. These are photons and electrons, nucleuses, the very forces that make us up and the very forces that we perceive all around us, expressing themselves and expressing their arguments as to who they are, who has authority, who is a slave, who is a king. So Obatala may be saying, our conscious minds may be saying that we are in control of our body. But instead of conscious and subconscious, the Yoruba talk about the outer and the inner. And Eshu is always the inner. Eshu is what keeps your heart beating. Ogun, inner, keeps your heart beating. Eshu is what is the divinity of your soul as it exists in heaven, the singularity of your soul. Whereas Obatala is all of your experiences, all the things that you have experienced here on earth, trying to take control and say what should happen next. But it never actually is successful. Every night you go to sleep, your inner mind, your Assemblage takes control over your outer mind and trains your outer mind, shows your outer mind what you truly desire, shows your outer mind what you truly fear, and then puts you back out into the world to figure it all out another day. You know, politicians like Trump think that they have power. But power isn't held by being a legislator or a commander, telling people what not to do, or telling people, giving orders as to what to do. True power comes from being able to do what you want to do. And that's what we as culture soldiers have. We have the power to show people how they want to live, how they want to be, how they want to spend their time. That's what our arguments can do. Our arguments can set them free. Their arguments point out that they're not free. And I will always resist seeing myself as a peon so that I can see myself instead as a king in a family of kings. All right. Nice one.
That's a good ending.
Yeah, good job.